This is Kerrigan and Company. Why have a job when you can have a purpose? When you work for the Northeast Arc, you're joining a team dedicated to creating inclusive communities for people with disabilities. As an organization that supports more than 10,000 people each year, it's easy to find a role that fits your skills and passion. Become part of an organization that's been named one of the best employers in Massachusetts. Visit nearc.org/careers now to view job opportunities and apply. That's nearc.org/careers. It's all about the sound of music on this episode of Kerrigan and Company.
Kerrigan and Company is here for you. Yes, Kerrigan and Company is here for you.
Hi, everybody. Happy New Year, and welcome to the first edition of Kerrigan and Company in 2026. We are so happy to have you, and we hope that it was a terrific holiday season. And thank you for tolerating the fact that we took 1 week off. I think, my producer Dave and I chatted about it, and we thought, well, I think the audience will understand. Hope you enjoyed that 100th episode, though, and if you didn't have a chance to see it, I would highly recommend going back and taking a peek. It was a lot of fun to put together, kind of a look back of 2025, and just happened to be the 100th episode. But we are thrilled about 26, and we have lots of great things already scheduled coming your way. So we hope that you will stay with us, continue to watch, and continue to listen. So today, this is really, really fun. Today, we are talking about The Sound of Music. The Sound of Music, the movie that all of us love so very much. I actually, looking back at clips, realized that I can recite a lot of the movie. It is celebrating 60 years, which is hard to imagine, but it is true. And we thought to ourselves, wow, how could we enjoy celebrating that? While, by the way, the stage production of the show is going to be here in Boston for the next couple of weeks. How could we sort of participate in that? And we put together a show today I know that you're going to love. So keeping me company today is a two-time Tony Award-winning producer. He is from Oklahoma originally, lives in Manhattan now, but is also an assistant professor over at the conservatory and has had an intimate relationship with The Sound of Music. It is so great to have Eric Cornell with me. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good
to see you.
Great to have you here. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you.
Thank you very much. I anticipate 26 is going to be a great year.
Absolutely, and congratulations on 100 shows.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah. It was a big ordeal for us to take a week off because we actually have not taken a week off since we started.
Oh, wow.
So we decided we would take a week off, and wow, we've just really celebrated.
Well, I think you have
it
to
up.
get to 100 to take a day off.
I think you're right.
I think that's
exactly how it works. Exactly. Great to see you, and I'm so glad that you could be a part of this show today. It is so cool how we found you and that you were involved in this show. Not necessarily the one that's here right now, and certainly not the movie because that would be long before your time.
I would look great for my age then.
Really. But you were involved with The Sound of Music stage play, taking it to Asia.
Absolutely.
Back in 22-23.
Yes, absolutely. And so that came to me. So this production that's touring around right now is a brand new production that's been in the U.S. for about 2 years, and then we were going to take it to Asia right when the pandemic happened. And so when the pandemic happened, that got shut down, like it does. And another company called Broadway Asia, which is an organization that specializes in bringing Broadway shows to Asia, they worked with the original producers of this production and brought that to Asia. So I worked with them and helped them bring it to Asia.
What were the audience's responses?
Oh my God, they were insane. I mean, Sound of Music, like you said, you know it intimately. You know it's something that people celebrate. It's a classic. It's a Christmas movie for a lot of people, right? Around the world, everybody knows Sound of Music. Like every single person you run into, they have some experience with it, whether they watched the movie, whether they've seen a stage play production of it. Everybody has a Sound of Music story.
Yeah. I mean, when I was thinking about this and you taking that to Asia, I was thinking, I don't know if there's a whole lot of other shows that would have such wide appeal that are on stage.
Yes, it's very limited.
Yeah, I mean, it's just really amazing. So what was the experience like?
Oh, it was incredible. I had worked in Asia before. before. I'd worked in Japan, working on Sister Act there many years ago.
Yeah.
And so this was my first time going to many of these countries. So obviously there's cultural differences. Obviously there's food differences for me a lot. So it was amazing working there and seeing the same passion for theater that we have here in the United States.
Yeah.
Many people forget that musical theater as we know it is a Western concept. It is something that was developed in America. It was something that was created here, sort of off of the operetta, off of opera, which was what was popular in Europe at the time. And so I really think of musical theater as Broadway as an export of the United States. So being able to bring that over there and seeing people enjoy it in that way, and also getting to see theater while I was there, was really transformative.
I'll bet. It was, as I said, 22, 23. So you were coming off of the pandemic. You were GM, actually.
I was the general manager of it, yes.
Yeah, which, I mean, when I think about the idea of coming off of the pandemic and then taking a huge show like that, I mean, I don't know what your cast members were, but you had to have had a big show.
We toured 70 people.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Moving those people from place to place for almost a year and however many months, right? What was that? That had to have been a challenge, and that had to have been exciting.
It was absolutely a challenge. There were variables that changed as we were out there, too, because, like you said, we were coming out of the pandemic. We were the first tour to travel to Asia following the pandemic. So there was us and I think a Phantom of the Opera production that was sort of, we were circling around one another. And so we went to Singapore, which was really a wonderful country. We teched there. They were, I think, a little further along in the pandemic conversation than we had been. So we felt very safe there. We were able to get the show open there. And we spent about 6 or 8 weeks in Singapore working on the show and opening it there, because that was simpler than doing it here in the United States with the restrictions we had.
Sure,
and all of those
absolutely.
things. And then we took it directly to Malaysia, which is just next door, and we did it there. But after that, we had to take 4 weeks off, I want to say, because the difference of touring in the United States and versus Asia is we can't drive the set to the next country. We usually had to boat it. So we had 7 crates, the 7 like 40-foot trucks that we had, and we named the 7 trucks after the children. So they all had the. I'll give you a photo of it for your Instagram.
That'd be great.
So that way we could look at it. So that way we could get it onto boats. We could sail it. Essentially, we worked with global logistics partners that essentially helped us. But in order to get it from Malaysia to the Philippines, that's 3.5 weeks of boat.
Oh, my goodness.
So the cast, I think, had a good experience, and the company, because they did get to go home between productions, right? They were able to get back to the United States, or we gave them options to travel within Asia if they wanted to stay.
Sure.
So they got some possibilities there. For us, there were countries we were supposed to go to that we ended up having to cancel because the local dynamics changed. So that happened a lot. So our schedule changed quite a bit. And that was a big part of managing.
Oh,
I
I
would say.
bet. Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, what an undertaking.
Yeah.
Not that you haven't undertaken many stage productions, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a second. But as we continue to talk about The Sound of Music, what do you think, because you've been involved with so many shows, including, by the way, one of those Tonys coming from the reprisal of Oklahoma, which is one of the greatest, Broadway shows ever, in my opinion, but and a great movie. But what do you think it is about the Sound of Music that just even made the Asian audience?
I think everybody can see themselves in it, right? Everybody has been an outsider at some point. Everybody has been confused about their path at one point. Everybody's sought advice at some point. And everyone's been surprised at their outcome at some point. Also, people have had to make tough decisions in their life and really realize where they stood on their moral ground. And I think even though this is about a specific time period, 2 very specific people, that message resonates with everyone, and everyone can see themselves, what would I do in this situation, or I remember a time. That, I think, is a big piece of it.
Sure.
And just the family dynamic.
Absolutely.
People love seeing that family come together, a widow come out of his shell because of a young woman he meets. I think that's something that really hits people.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's amazing, and it's a show, again, that resonates, I think, with so many people.
And culturally, that's what it is, right?
Absolutely.
So that extends beyond the boundaries of culture. Everybody has that experience with it.
Let's talk a little bit about your career. So you are a kid who grew up in Oklahoma. I'm from Missouri, so
I saw that,
I can completely relate to that.
Yeah.
In fact, my father's entire side of his family is from Oklahoma.
Oh, wow.
So
My entire family's from Missouri. I'm not kidding. My dad lives in St. Louis now.
Really? You and I probably we
Swap
passed
paths.
on that. That's great. But I just thought it was so cool that your first Tony came from Oklahoma, and I'm sure that had nothing to do with the fact that you were from there. It just happened to be the case.
Absolutely. I mean, there's been a lot of great Oklahoma connections to Broadway overall, which I've been very grateful for. But I'll actually one-up. Both of my Tonys are for shows about Oklahoma.
Yeah, because the other one is
For the outsiders. Yeah. So that ended up being very special for me just because of my connection there.
Sure.
I've been a part of shows that had been nominated. I've been part of shows that weren't nominated. So for those to come along was really special in that way, just for me, cosmically, I want to say.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so let's get on this journey. So there you are in Oklahoma. So I'm trying to get on a journey that takes you to the bright lights of New York. So how did it happen?
Yeah, I was always a theater kid. You know, I discovered theater when I was younger, and it was something that I really enjoyed. But I also had just a really great time in high school, to be honest. Like, I did all the clubs, I did everything. I was very active. One of my teachers used to call me Rushmore, like that kid, that movie about everybody that does everything. So I really enjoyed that, and I decided at some point that I wanted to go into theater for my career. Mm-hmm. And I had originally intended to go to the University of Oklahoma, and something in my being said that wasn't right for me. And I applied to Emerson College, sight unseen. I didn't know if that was right for me, but the feeling was right for me. Uh-huh. I applied in secret. I got in. I went to my parents very sheepishly and said, I did something without your permission. I got this acceptance to the school, and I want to go. And my mom looked at me and she said, you have to go. Yep. So I ended up going to school for theater management. I had done stage productions when I was younger, and I was attracted to the theater because I think that's a lot of people's introduction.
Sure.
But a big thing, even to my career now, is talking about the larger net of theater and entertainment. And so I had worked for a woman in Oklahoma who was a producer, and I sort of got, well, this is the woman who's moving the buttons. This is the woman behind the curtain. And I worked for her, and I really got inspired of that's actually more what I want to do. Like, I'm a student council kid, I'm a, club and organization kid, and I'm a theater kid. Well, what does that lead to? Well, it leads to this backstage role in theater.
Sure.
So Emerson had a great program where you could sort of fine-tune a theater degree, and I studied commercial musical theater management there.
Wow, yeah. Absolutely. I've never taken a moment to just think about that idea, that there is so much more. And I get this idea because I worked on television, so I understand that the people who are sitting out there in the front are really a very small part of what is happening. And you are one of those people who made it happen,
Yeah, at different points. Yeah, it's always a collaboration. But like you said, usually you'd see maybe between 16 and 20 people on stage, mm-hmm. but most shows have somewhere between 70 and 100 people in total.
Absolutely.
Anytime the curtain goes up.
Absolutely, you bet. Those people out in front also appreciate that because they know you have to have those people behind you or this does not happen.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember this. When I worked on Wicked, I think we said there was 104 people in the building to get the curtain up every day.
Wow.
And I think that I may be off one or two numbers there, but it was always that number. That included box office staff and treasurers and your ushers. It's a full package.
Absolutely.
Both in front of the curtain and behind the curtain.
You bet. It took you to New York after getting finished here at Emerson. And wow, you have been involved with some really incredible productions there and been on the road with a lot of great ones too.
Yeah.
Tell me your favorite.
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I had actually worked at Broadway in Boston. I was the intern there to the operations department. And I got my first job in New York on The Producers. And so that has a very special place in my heart because it was my first show to work on Broadway. It was the first time to see my name in the back of the playbill. But I really... when I got to that show, they were celebrating their 5th anniversary. And, I was the get the coffee fax out numbers. We still faxed at that time. And they were celebrating their 5th anniversary and I think 11th worldwide production. And so that's when I started going, well, maybe Broadway isn't the goal. Maybe Broadway is a piece of this larger puzzle. Because I've always had this more macro view of the world and macro view of theater.
Sure.
Of how does it all come together as a puzzle? What are the puzzle pieces I don't see? What are the puzzle pieces that we can adjust and make something else? And so that's when I really started going, oh, I want to be part of a larger set of theater. This is fascinating. So that will sort of take me through most of my career. So from there, I worked on Hairspray. And after that, I got my first job as a manager, as the assistant manager of Wicked in Chicago. And that's a global brand. It is obviously celebrating its 20th anniversary now, 2 very successful movies. And I really loved seeing, and I cut my teeth on, and the women who run that show, the general managers of that show, they really taught me a lot about how does a show run? Because we had 4 U.S. productions, and I think at one point, Wicked was playing around the world 23 hours a day because of the Japanese, Australian, all of these productions. So it's hard to pinpoint a specific favorite show because of that, because they all operate differently, if that makes sense.
Sure, no, it does.
I liked that, and I ended up working on Next to Normal, which had just won the Pulitzer Prize, and that was a more intimate show, but is now, I think, more widely known. But Sister Act is what I ended up next, and that had just come over from England, so that was a worldwide import, and that probably holds the most special place in my heart, because it was the first time I really had my own show. I had opened it with another company manager, and she was pregnant, and she left after she had the child, so I took over the show, and I was able to sit in the driver's seat for the first time on that show, and really just have a company and be with them and really watch that flow of energy and flow of need of a company. Yeah. And I absolutely love that show.
You like the nuns.
I love the nuns. That's a good point. I do love the nuns. The nuns provide a lot of character for us. Yeah.
Yeah. I love that you are not overwhelmed by what it is you do. To me, that seems like a very overwhelming task, and I think it's just magnificent that you've been able to. Yeah, that's a big deal. It really is. That's really terrific. Well, listen, we've got much more to talk about. I am so glad that you're here with me. It's Eric Cornell. Again, he is a Tony Award-winning producer. He is also a professor over at the Boston Conservatory. We'll talk a little bit more about that experience as well. You bop back and forth.
Yes, absolutely.
You live in New York, but you come here to do a little, which is cool. Keeps your foot in Boston.
Keeps me active, yeah.
So glad. That is so fun. But when we come back, as we continue this conversation about The Sound of Music, we are going to talk to a member of the Von Trapp family, which is a lot of fun. Their story is not exactly what we all, I think, fantasized that their story was.
Yeah, it never is it?
Yeah, and certainly a movie did a good job of portraying them. But we're going to hear a little bit more about their family and what's happening with that family as we speak today. So stay with us, everybody. You are listening to Kerrigan and Company.
Get ready for another dazzling season of musicals at Bill Haney's North Shore Music Theater. The rhythm is gonna get you when the 2026 season begins in June with On Your Feet, the inspiring true story of Emilio and Gloria Estefan.
Get on your feet. Get up and make it happen.
Followed by a colorful production of the family favorite, Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Joseph, you know what they say. Hang on now, Joseph, you'll make it someday.
And it will be nothing but a good time when Rock of Ages rocks the NSMT stage.
Don't you believe it.
That is followed by the breathtaking Tony Award-winning musical, Come From Away.
Welcome to the rock.
And the season ends with a haunting production of Yeston and Kopitz' Phantom. For more information about North Shore Music Theater tickets, discount subscription packages, and our full season of kid shows and concerts, please visit nsmt.org.
This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Lucia Lighting and Design, where people in the know go for the best possible lighting and design experience. Welcome back, everybody, to Kerrigan and Company. Today, talking about The Sound of Music, the movie, of course, the Julie Andrews movie, 60 years old. That's so hard to believe. How could I know all those words and it's 60 years old? It's killing me here.
They're catchy.
Keeping me company today is Eric Cornell, and he is a Tony-winning producer and also an associate professor over there at the Berklee Conservatory here in Boston, but lives in New York, by the way, and was kind enough to make a trip here to Boston to see us today. So thank you very much.
Happy to do it.
And we've been having a great conversation about your incredible career. And we've been talking about The Sound of Music. And if you're going to talk about The Sound of Music, you have to talk about the Von Trapps, obviously. And if you're going to talk about the Von Trapps, then you have to travel north to Stowe, Vermont, where you will find the beautiful Von Trapp Family Lodge and Resort, which is just beautiful.
Gorgeous.
It is a fantastic spot, and the person who runs that beautiful spot is Kristina von Trapp Frame, and she is joining us right now. She is a granddaughter of the famous Von Trapp couple. Nice to see you.
Nice to be here. Thanks for having me.
We were asking what's life up like today up there in Vermont. So January in Vermont is...
Snowy. It is snowy and beautiful. And snow on the trees, snow on the ground. We're enjoying it all.
That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about the Von Trapp Family Lodge before we get started talking about your family.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kim. We have an incredible property on the hillside in Stowe, Vermont. My dad is Johannes von Trapp. His family bought this property in 1942 when it was 2 working dairy farms. My dad traveled singing with his family for years and then came back to start running the hotel in 1967 and subsequently bought farms nearby. So now we have 2,600 acres, year-round recreation, and Alpine-style, Austrian-style lodging, a 96-room hotel, as well as 100 timeshare units, a brewery, a beer hall restaurant, all kinds of great things to explore here.
It is a beautiful spot.
It looked
really
gorgeous.
is.
As we said, I haven't been up to Stowe yet, but I was visiting your website, which is really great and informative about everything you have there. And it just made me so excited maybe that's a reasonable trip from New York to get up there. Maybe that's a great way to go write and spend some quality time like with myself and nature and, be able to sort of work there at some point.
Yeah, absolutely, Eric. It is, this hillside just really has its own, kind of charisma and space. And everything just kind of slows down and you just really can connect with yourself and what's important to you. So
That's
a lot of
something
people
we all need.
A lot of people come here kind of as a retreat, or if they're really interested in the sound of music, they come for that initially. And then they realize how really unique our property is and come back with their own story.
Mm-hmm. I was about to say that hillside is alive with the sound of music, but I thought that might be a little cliche, so I will try. I bet you hear that one just about as much as you need to hear it. Kristina,
we can get that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I feel confident in that. It's really been interesting, this 60-year anniversary, and you guys have been celebrating it up there, and I know that you've even been to Austria for some of the celebration. Tell me a little bit about what that movie means to you, and for those who maybe don't know, so Maria was your grandmother.
Correct.
Yeah, but the story's a little bit different than what's portrayed in the movie.
Yeah, so... listen, they did a great job with the play and the movie, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But it already is a 3-hour movie. And so they had to take out a little bit to hustle it along. In real life, my grandmother Maria got married to the Captain Georg in 1927. And they had 2 children born in Austria, 2 girls. And then when they fled in 1938, 11 years later, she was pregnant with my father, Johannes. And they pretended they were going hiking for the day and went to Italy for a few months and then got a steamership passage over to the States and landed in Philadelphia in fall of 38.
Mm-hmm. So that's a little different. Now, did the captain have children prior?
That part is absolutely true.
Okay.
There were the original 7 children, but this sometimes crushes people. The names were different, and the oldest in real life was a boy, not a girl, and there was not a Liesl Rolf love story. But there was another love interest that the captain had. It was a woman who was a princess, and she had title and money, and he did not marry her, and he did marry Maria instead.
That's the great thing about adaptations. Real life is always going to be factual, and there's going to be events that you may not be able to put together as entertainment value, right? So you always have to do that. And obviously, Broderston Hammerstein did, I think, a lovely job of adapting that book. And even the movie is different than the stage production, right? And the current touring production is different than the original production. So there's always that value of entertainment that evolves over time, but you always have to recognize and respect like the roots of the origin story, right? There was a Maria's book. There was based off of her original book, right? And that is a great source material to be able to go back and revisit as well if you want more of that history on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, they did an incredible job adapting the play from her book. And she sold the play and movie rights for $9,000, which seemed like a good idea to her at the time. So I say we don't get the financial reward, we get the worldwide recognition, though.
Yeah.
And these days, with everything that's going on in the world, I think I'm very grateful to be a part of a story that is positive and brings hope and joy to many, many people.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about what is that feeling, you know, not just now, but throughout your life of being part of that legacy? And how's that been something you've carried within your life? And have you been able to step away from it? Have you been able to always keep it forward-footed? How's that played into your life?
You know, that is such an interesting question, Eric. And I think I'm at a stage in my life right now where I can answer it because I've been through it. So let's go way back. When I was growing up, we did not have a television. So we had horses and chickens and dogs and cats and thousands of acres to run around on. But I grew up just with my family running a hotel like everybody in this town did. We're in a resort town of Stowe, Vermont, so all the hotels were family owned and operated when I was a kid. So our job was not unusual. And we just didn't know, my brother and I didn't know that there's anything different about our family. And then as I got older and moved away from Stowe, went away to college, I would introduce myself. I would say, hi, my name is Kristina von Trapp. You know, like not a big deal. And then people would say, wait, what? What's your name? Are you from The Sound of Music? Is it real? Are you real? And that was really overwhelming.
Might have been shock value.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So I very quickly learned to just offer my first name. And then later on in the conversation, if I liked them, I could ask because it makes people really happy to learn about it and that there's a real story and a real family behind it. But it's nice when it's not, for me, it's nice when it's not the first thing that people learn about me.
Did the property, the resort that you have, was it always associated with the Von Trapp family, or did that evolve over time?
Good question. So it always has been in our family's ownership. Like I said, they bought the property in 1942 and the family lived here. They wanted to farm. They were traveling and singing around the world for 20 years, but they really wanted to farm in the summertime. So they bought this property. And then when they were traveling and singing fall, winter, and spring, they would tell people about the property and how beautiful it was and that how it truly reminded them of Austria. The geography here and the people in Vermont were really hardworking and connected to the land. So people would trickle in and people would come and stay. And then also the downhill ski resort was gaining popularity. So we really talk about 1950 as opening as a hotel. So we just celebrated our 75th anniversary of our hotel being family owned and operated. And my grandmother ran it until my dad took over. So my grandmother ran the hotel from 1950 to 1967. My father, Johannes, took over in 1967, and he just retired in 2023. And in 2 weeks, he'll be 87.
Which is so great. Good for him. And he is the sole surviving child, correct?
From that generation, yes.
From that generation. Right, exactly. I want to touch on this. I think it's so interesting. I've heard you talk about your grandmother and your grandfather, and they were different than the two characters in the movie. You've said that Maria was a little more stoic. She was a little tougher, while maybe your grandfather was a little softer. He was maybe the pushover.
Yes, that's correct. She was a little more on the firm and stern side, but realistically, they came over with nothing. And if she hadn't been such a force to keep everybody together, traveling and singing, we wouldn't be here today on this property. They wouldn't have had enough money to buy anything. They worked really, really hard.
Yeah.
And I heard stories. Actually, I read about stories in my Aunt Agatha's book about the captain taking the family sailing in the Adriatic in summertime. So yes, he was a little softer. She was a little firmer. Now, one thing was true that each child did have a whistle call. So there wasn't just one whistle that they all had to come running. Each child, because they had large grounds in the back of their house. So that was a way that the children were called in without having to yell.
That practicality, it is practical, I have to say.
I love that. I don't know that I've ever heard you say, though. I know that Maria was actually an orphan, if I've read that correctly. But did she live in a convent as a result of being an orphan? Was that part of the story true, or was that embellished?
There is some truth to that.
Oh.
So both her parents died when she was quite young, and she went to live with relatives that were very difficult, and then she went into foster care.
Okay.
So she had a very difficult childhood, and no religion, and not a lot of love, I don't think. So she did go to school to become a teacher, and then but she also loved being out in nature. And then one day she said, God created all this nature that I love so much. What can I do to give back? And so she went to become a teacher in the Nonnberg Abbey. And that's when the captain, one of his daughters, had issues didn't recover all the way from scarlet fever. And so she couldn't walk the miles to school every day and needed a tutor at her home. So the Captain Georg had called the Nonnberg Abbey asking if anybody would be appropriate to tutor his child at home. And since she was a little bit lively and had training with teaching, she went to be the tutor.
And now we're where we are today
Yeah.
because of that one moment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow, that is fantastic. Hey, let's talk about, I want to go back to the resort. You guys have some fun things going on at the resort. Tell us a little bit about the winter season and what people can expect.
Yeah, we just again, we have this beautiful property. So it's as much or as little as you would like to do.
Okay. Great.
We have our outdoor center that in the wintertime has cross-country skiing and snowshoes, rentals, 60 kilometers of trails. And we have a cabin that's 3 miles up in the woods that serves hot soup and sandwiches during the day where you can cross-country ski up to or snowshoe up to.
Why are we not there right now,
I
Eric?
know. We should come up to you.
We should have come
We'll
to
zoom
you.
up to you, yes.
We also have a really sweet little chapel that's a half mile up behind the hotel that one of my dad's brothers built after coming back from World War II as an American. Both his brothers were in the 10th Mountain Division and trained in the mountains in Colorado before going over to Austria and Italy. So that's another destination. We have our cafe house.
And Christina, can I just interrupt you for a second? I think I heard you say that chapel was built because he said, God, if you get me back, I'll build a chapel.
You've been doing your homework.
Very good.
I thought that was...
He was on the ground with the troops and with American troops, and they were suffering huge casualties. And he prayed and said, if I make it out of this war alive, I'll build a chapel to Our Lady of Peace, Mary. Yeah.
I love that.
That's
there's
great.
always a theme of religion in the production and obviously in the history of this resort. But I love that it's also universal. It's not necessarily denominational in any way, right? Like there is this sort of like larger connection of the world put me in the right place at the right time. These things were delivered to me. I actually think that's just, goose pimple, something that makes a lot of sense.
It does. It does.
And the resort is 4 seasons, right? I was reading about that. So you can come year round.
Yep, absolutely. I mean, it's amazing in the summertime. Our gardens are incredible. We just actually redid our large gardens last year, a phase 1 of 3 phases. We have a vegetable garden, we have a flower garden, we have benches that you can just go and sit on and read a book. We also host a lot of weddings. We have a beautiful outside platform where you can do yoga in the morning. and then go to a wedding and then watch a concert the next day on that.
That's dreamy to me.
And then hiking, mountain biking, trail running. And then we also, if you're looking for more food, we have at Food and Drink, we have our beer hall. They're all Austrian style lager beers. And then our beer hall restaurant also, which is fabulous.
Yeah.
And the beer is the Von Trapp beer, right?
Von Trapp Brewing.
Yes. I was
Yeah.
very excited to see that because we were at one point looking for liquor sponsors, different things. And we found Edelweiss beer in Asia. And we thought, oh, that's a good connection. But now I know of this brewery. Yes.
We brew with the German purity laws. So everything is really crisp, clean ingredients. And the lager beers, they taste great. Actually, our brewery won Brewery and Brewer of the Year in 2024, which is a really big deal.
That's a
Congrats.
really big deal.
we
You
have, a,
bet.
we have a great team.
So, Christina, of course, tomorrow, Wednesday, I'm sorry, the show opens here in Boston, The Sound of Music on stage. And my understanding is that you're going to make a trip down and see a production and then hold a Q&A afterward.
I am. I'm going to join everybody on Thursday. And it's always fascinating for a cast to meet a real person from the family because it just makes it come alive for them in a totally different way. It just adds another depth to their understanding of the play and the story. And then they're always very curious how they fit in. They're like, well, who am I in real life?
Right. That's right.
Oh, I bet that's so special. I mean, actors are some of the most wonderful people in the world, and they take, sometimes I think as audience members, we might think of like, oh, that's just like a fun job, they're up there playing, but they take it so seriously and so meaningfully. So the fact that they're getting to meet you, that's going to be really
Absolutely.
incredible.
You bet. And is it heartbreaking when you have to tell them, well, you're actually a fictional character?
That's not what this is.
I say, no, everybody has value. Everybody counts.
You bet. Absolutely. It has been a delight to meet you. Thank you so very much for taking time for us here on Kerrigan and Company.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you.
You be sure that you enjoy that experience with the cast. That'll be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
All right, Christina, thanks so much. We'll take a break. Everybody stay with us. This is Kerrigan and Company. If you need a new look for lighting in your home, you need to go to Lucia Lighting and Design. The spectacular 10,000 square foot showroom inside a mansion in Lynn, Massachusetts is decorated with both architectural and decorative lighting in every style. From crystal and traditional to contemporary and modern, the selection is unmatched. Whenever I'm looking for new lighting, I head right to Lucia Lighting and Design. When I'm not sure what I'm looking for, I rely on the expert guidance of Lucia Lighting and Design's team. I know they can help me, and I know they can help you too. Learn more and book your appointment today at lucialighting.com.
If you like rum, you're going to love Rumson's Rum, New England's most award-winning rum brand. Rumson creates distinctive and savory flavor profiles by hand-selecting and marrying the finest barrel-aged Caribbean rums. The spirits are then blended and finished in the New England Rum House. Choose from Rumson's Gold, Spiced, Grand Reserve, or Coffee Rum. Find Rumson's at liquor stores or ask for it at your favorite restaurant. Learn more at rumsons.com. That's rumsons.com. Rumsons. Life lived, life enjoyed.
This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by the North Shore Music Theater, which has just announced its spectacular 2026 season. Learn more at nsmt.org. Welcome back to Kerrigan and Company, everybody. Good to have you with us. Of course, keeping me company today is a Tony Award-winning producer. I keep saying this over and over, but I just can't. I have to say it over and over again. This is Eric Cornell, and also an assistant professor over at the conservatory. But you're here today because of The Sound of Music, and you had some involvement. That's not where the Tonys came from, though.
No. They came from another Rodgers and Hammerstein show, Oklahoma, and currently running The Producer, or The Outsiders. The
Outsiders, exactly. Well, I'm excited. We just had a wonderful conversation with Kristina, which was really terrific. How exciting is that?
That was
It's really
amazing.
cool, too, to hear what the similarities to the movie are and then what's not similar, which is really interesting.
I loved hearing the evolvement because the original Maria story to the adaptation on stage to the adaptation of the movie, they all have different adjustments for their particular audiences.
Absolutely. I think that Kristina's, though, is the real one.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. I don't think she's adjusting her story.
No, not hers. I mean the original novel, yeah.
Well, of course, it opens up The Sound of Music here in Boston and it's going to be here for the next couple of weeks. Very exciting. And we always love when a show comes to town and we're lucky enough to have a homegrown actor in the show. And this one, we are lucky enough. This is Tess Primac, and it's great to see you.
Thank you so much for having me.
A hometown actress.
I know, it's so good to be back in Boston for 2 weeks.
Good for you. And you grew up like out in the Worcester area, correct?
No, I was born in Boston, but I went to Newton South High School, so I grew up in the Newton area. But I grew up seeing Boston Conservatory shows, and Berkeley shows, and shows at the Huntington. So like I'm a Boston girl.
Boston theater
Absolutely.
is so great.
It's just the best.
It's really a great theater town.
It's amazing.
Where did you go to college?
At Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then after that, I'm sure you were doing shows along the way, but what ultimately took you out to the big Broadway stages?
I mean, Carnegie is an amazing place for artists to grow, and we do showcases in New York and Los Angeles. And I remember thinking, where would I be most comfortable unemployed? It would be New York City, just because we're so close to New York, and I grew up, seeing Broadway shows. And so I immediately moved with most of my class to New York City and was able to do some Broadway there and do some regional shows and come back here. I've worked at North Shore since then. It's been so special. But
I have to gas you up. Like Carnegie Mellon is no small feat. It is a very selective, very incredible top 10 program in the nation, and really come out with, I think, meaningful, smart, dedicated artists that come out of that.
I think one of the gifts of that program is that they train actors to make their own work, because so much creativity and also so much success happens from actors just having the ambition to be like, I'm going to make this myself. And Carnegie is so good about that.
And very forward thinking, right?
Very
that is something that we have evolved to as a market, as an industry. You have to be able to have that multiplicity. You have to have that ability to be entrepreneurial as part of your career.
Absolutely, yeah. So I've written a couple one-woman shows, and then in my class, I was in class with Pigpen Theater Company, who wrote the music for Water for Elephants on Broadway. So and they were just actors. So it was a really, really special place, and I'm so grateful I got to go there.
I tell my students all the time, the people you will work with in New York are the people in this classroom.
Right, look to your right, look to your left.
Yeah, you cannot discount the idea that these people around you will excavate and create around you, and you'll participate because of that.
Yeah, this is your team.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Well, Tess, you are one of those really well-rounded actresses. I mean, that voice that you have is absolutely spectacular.
Thank you.
It really, really is. And it has led you to a number of different parts. Tell us a little bit about some of them, but then we'll talk about the part that you have right now.
Like things that I've been up to since moving to New York City. I mean, I made my Broadway debut in Fiddler on the Roof, which was so special.
Another classic.
I know. We love our classics and our beautiful revivals. And then I've worked with a lot of new composers. That's one of my favorite things to do, is working with new writers.
Kerrigan and Louderman, right?
No, I worked with Kumin and Diamond.
Kumin and Diamond, I'm sorry,
on their
thank you.
new show. And they're actually a Carnegie Mellon alum, too. Although when I auditioned for their show, I didn't know them. But they've become dear friends.
They have great music.
Oh, my God, they're amazing, and they're amazing men. And I worked a lot with the NYU Grad Musical Theater Writing Program, helping their writers create their new shows. So I've done a lot of new stuff. And then, of course, I got to come back to Boston to play Emma and Jekyll and Hyde at North Shore Music Theater, which was so special. Yeah. But I grew up in Boston doing theater. Like, I actually missed my high school graduation because I was in Parade at Speakeasy Stage Company.
Such a theater kid thing to do.
Oh, my God, I know.
Such a theater kid. I mean, that's like, you always get the story of like, I didn't go to prom because, I was playing Liesel. I love those stories, though.
Oh, my God, totally. And then I did shows, I know they don't exist anymore, but at New Rep, and I did a show at Huntington when I was very, very little. I did La Boheme there. But anyway, it's so good to be back. And it's been such a wide range of things that I have done. This is such a special show for me to be reuniting with, because I've done it a couple times in Boston growing up. So
right. And played different roles than what you're playing now, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so you've had your hand in this show in many different ways. So let's talk about what you're playing in this particular production.
Yeah, so I play Sister Margareta, who is the biggest fan of Maria.
She's my favorite. She's my favorite.
Maria makes you laugh.
Maria is hilarious. But yeah, it's been so much fun. Working with Jack O'Brien, our prolific director, was incredible. And the company is so kind. They found the loveliest group of actors. And thank goodness, because, I mean, we're on the road together. So, this is your family.
Right.
So I feel so
It's
lucky.
everything.
It's everything. So I feel so lucky that I have made some unbelievable friendships.
That's fantastic. This 2526 being the 60th anniversary of the movie. So this makes this a very special time for this to be out. Tell me what the audience's reactions have been.
Oh, they've been loving it.
I bet.
Yeah, I think it's so special just because I had one of my aunts came to the show, and at a separate occasion, her granddaughter came to the show, and my aunt Kathy was like, "Yeah, I mean, I grew up with The Sound of Music, but my granddaughter Betty Lou hasn't seen it." And then when Betty Lou came to see your show, she came home and started singing Do Re Mi with me, and she was like, "It just made me start crying because she didn't know the show, and now she knows the music."
Oh, every generation.
Oh my God,
It
falls
is.
in
It
love
is
with
so
it. It's
generational.
intergenerational.
I mean, there's grandparents who are, like you're saying, are singing with their grandkids.
Well, it's almost like an heirloom, I think, that people pass on. It's
think
like,
that's true.
I watched this with my mother, and now I have a daughter, I have a son. Our family watches this together. Now I have a family. And now they get to bring them to the stage production.
yeah.
Which is, we've talked about this. Eric and I have talked about this. I've never seen it on stage, by the way. I'm going to see it while you guys are here.
Oh, good.
But it's a twist different, as we've said, from the movie. First off, I think there's musical pieces that don't exist in the movie, correct?
Yeah, and I'll add to that, too. This production, Jack's production, is quite different than previous productions people may have seen. I worked on the production in Asia, this production that Jack did. And so it's a little, I think, more realistic. It's a little darker. It's not, it tells the story, I think, in a more realistic way than just the
Give me
happy
a sense of
straight
what you're
line of
talking. Okay,
kids.
tell me
So
what
you
you're
think
talking
about
about.
Sound of Music and you think about like, oh, it's this straight line of kids and it's this like very peppy musical at all times. But this, I think, portrays like real people. The kids have more individual personalities. They're not just one block unit, which I think historically the production has seen. And Jack's, I think, reworked some of the placement of songs, if I recall correctly. And so even if you know The Sound of Music or you've been a part of it many times, this production is new to everyone in a lot of ways.
Yes. I mean, this is the all-new touring production, so there's new costumes, direction, lighting, sets. And Jack in rehearsals was so specific about learning about the history of what was going on at that time as well. So just collectively also just delving into that
Rooting
and
it
learning
more.
about that. Exactly. I mean, it is absolutely still the timeless story that everybody knows and loves, but there's a couple new songs that if people only know the movie, they will not know a couple of these songs. There's a couple song placement changes. So it's still the same story, but I think it's exciting to watch for people who've only seen the movie because they're like, oh, like, was that song in the movie and I just forgot about it?
Right.
And it's like, no, that song wasn't in the
Yeah,
movie.
and I love that about stage productions versus movie adaptations. You know, we've seen it with the movie Wicked that just came out over 2 years, right? Where there's new music in it that we hadn't heard before. Some of your favorite songs aren't in it. And I think I Have Confidence is not in this
It is
production,
not.
right? Like that sort of solely exists inside of the movie, but that's because that's where that belongs, because as a storytelling device, it doesn't fit into this world of this.
Right,
Yes.
sure. The geopolitical part of this is something, you were saying that Jack wants you to know the history of what was going on. That was really a big part of it that I think sometimes people forget. And when talking to Kristina von Trapp, you find out that, I mean, that was the motivator behind why they ended up in the States, obviously. There was a lot going on. That was sort of that underlying part of it it's
very
interesting.
timely, too, of course,
Yeah,
like
it
in the
is.
sort of state of the world we're in. And, it's very easy to, like, go categorically against groups of people in different ways. But, this is a story about what's right, about making the choice of, like, your personal morals. And I think that's more important than ever.
Absolutely. No, I mean, it's incredibly topical. And I mean, it is this like beautiful family show, but it does also have this incredible history that's so important. Which I think people sometimes can forget.
I think they do too.
Yeah, and then they're like, oh, right, this is a huge part of
Absolutely.
this.
This is right.
I remember
story.
talking to someone, I was like, well, we have to do this with the Nazi stuff. And they're like, what are Nazis in Sound of Music? I was like, you need to go back and watch The Sound of Music.
Absolutely.
I don't know if you remember this.
You have forgotten it, right?
Because you remember the joy, I think, as a human experience. You remember the joys from something. But there is this piece of evil. There is this piece of more threatening evil, I guess, impending evil that makes them flee. But it is those choices they make.
And I think that's why the story is so incredible, is it contains all of those things.
Yeah.
And you, this is your first tour, if I'm correct, yes? So how's it been touring? You started in September. How's it been? Where have you been? What's been sort of highlights for you? What's been unexpected?
Okay, loved Greenville. Greenville was like the cast sleeper hit. We loved it
Those
there.
are my favorite things on tour. It's like, I never knew I would love Des Moines.
Totally.
Right?
Like, would have no idea.
Yeah.
So it's been funny to sort of like audition different cities and be like, where do I like? Like, where would I potentially want to live later in life? So where else have we been? We went to Durham, which was so lovely, and Dayton. We were at the Kennedy Center for a month. We were in Utica. We were in Chicago for 2 weeks.
Nice.
And then
You were in Toronto.
We were in Toronto for 6 weeks. And now we're here for 2 weeks.
Yeah, that's
That's
so great.
being home.
So let's talk about that. You mentioned the North Shore Music Theater, and
Yeah.
obviously the Huntington, whatever. I mean, this is the backdrop of your career. How important has it been?
It's been so special. I
Yeah.
sort of, I took this job and I was like, of course, we're going to Boston. Great. But then arriving here yesterday, seeing my cat, seeing my parents, like coming back into Boston. And also, I haven't been back in the city in a little while. So also seeing how much things have changed here is so special. And the fact that like my castmates were like, where should I go get groceries? The fact that like people are asking me what to do is I'm like, oh yeah, like this is home. I know this place.
I do know
it's
this.
so
I do-
special.
You mentioned on tour, these people are your family. That is your whole life. So it is kind of like such a respite for the soul to come home because on tour, you're on tour for 38 weeks, 50 weeks, something like that, and you don't really get to go home because the life of a theater artist is challenging, right? It's 6 days a week, it's 8 shows a week, and we were even speaking before you got in. You arrived yesterday from Toronto, and your first performance is tonight.
It sure is. Yeah, our crew is amazing. The machine that they are that puts our show up in essentially one day.
Yeah.
And it looks gorgeous every time. Because I've never toured before, so I've never seen
The physical
that
production
happen.
of this Sound of Music is gorgeous.
Yeah.
The costumes are Jane Greenwood, right? I mean, Oscar-winning Jane Greenwood. I mean, it's almost all the designers are Broadway designers. It's incredibly lush and visually, I think, stunning.
Yeah. And I can't wait to hear our orchestra in Boston, just because the musicians here are so amazing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's going to be.
So you can show it. You can show it off to the rest of your castmates.
I know.
That's something people may find interesting. Most cities, you pick up the musicians.
Yes,
Right?
I think we have 3 or 4 musicians that travel with us, and then everywhere else they have their rehearsal on Tuesday before the show for a couple of hours, and then they do it.
Yeah.
The Boston musicians are such pros. I mean, it's going to sound gorgeous.
That's a great way, I think, touring support the local economy.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Obviously, the economics of it, where people go to the restaurant, they stay in a hotel, but it's also that brings local employment to the crew because there's local crew members, there's ushers, there's ticket takers, and the musicians.
Sure. Yeah, and just the house itself.
Of course.
Of course. Tess, let's talk about the future. What happens? How long are you out with this show?
My contract is rather open ended. I believe.
Great.
I don't exactly know how long the show will be touring for. But my contract, I believe I can stay for as long as I wish. But we'll see what happens. I might go back to New York City. I recently did a show in London about a year ago, so I might go back and do some stuff in London.
That's
we'll
great.
see what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's a ride.
And I like to ask sort of like what, as other people aspire to be where you are, what kind of advice would you give to the other young actors of Boston that are coming to see you, like you saw tours here? Were they coming to the Huntington? What advice would you give to them?
Make your own work. Always. Be kind to everyone. And again, your collaborators are everywhere around you, especially if you're lucky enough to have a high school show or have a high school program that does a lot of shows. Like I know that there's so much lush arts education in Boston. So there's so many communities of people that you can drop into and find collaborators with. See a lot of theater and art. Just because we're in Boston, there's so much of it.
And what a great opportunity for them to see Sound of Music over
Absolutely.
the next 2 weeks, right?
Over the next 2 weeks, it runs through the 18th of January. over at the Opera House. It's been great to meet you.
Thank you so much
Thank
for having me.
you for coming. Best of luck. We will be in the audience.
Yes.
I'll be the girl who stands up and starts clapping. When you sing, I will be screaming.
I can't
Tess,
wait to see
thank
it
you
again.
very much. All right, we're going to take a break, everybody, and wrap things up on the other side. This is Kerrigan and Company. My friends at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly are all about you feeling and looking your best, exuding confidence. They listen to their clients and offer the services and attention needed for optimal results. And now they're excited to introduce their new esthetician, Jen. Jen specializes in brows and lashes, which means Sienna is now offering brow lamination, lamination and tint, henna, semi-permanent micro shading, and full luscious lashes. Make your appointment today. Jen is available on Wednesdays and Thursdays. Go to siennaaesthetics.com. This segment of Kerrigan and Company is brought to you by Sienna Aesthetics Medical Spa. Take years off your face with the very latest technologies at Sienna Aesthetics in Beverly. Welcome back, everybody. It's that time of the show that we have to wrap things up, and I wish we didn't because this one has been really fun. Eric, it's been such a delight to have you here. You know, throughout the entire show, we've talked about the fact that you are an assistant professor over at the conservatory. Tell me a little bit about that experience. You come back and forth from New York to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So it came to me in sort of an unexpected way after I had left my job, sort of working for a production company in Europe. I went to grad school for management. I really wanted to get more experience just on the management side in general, the economics of it all. But a woman in my class was the chair of theater at Boston Conservatory, and she asked me if I would create a class for them that's on the business of theater. So I actually work with their junior and senior BFA students on what does this career look like from a business perspective?
Sure.
Like how do we actually engage and talk about making a career for yourself, but what does it look like from a union perspective? What does it look like from a self-producing perspective? What are contract language? How do agencies actually work? So really going into them, sort of explaining the actual operational value of this career and letting them know the feasibility of this career. That's what I truly believe in, is the transparency of the system, the transparency of arts, especially for artists, because they can improve overall when they know the other side of it.
Sure, absolutely. Let me ask you, how long have you been offering that class there?
I think I'm in my 8th or 9th year.
Wow, that's terrific. I mean, that's just a dimension that I think is so important. If you're sending a student there to learn those kinds of things, I don't care what it is, ultimately you want to do. That's just a phenomenal...
Not many colleges have
No,
a
I feel
business
sure
course
they
for
don't.
actors. And when I work with people in New York and in other productions, they say, oh, I wish I had a class like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I hope the students walk out of there, the first contract they get will not be the first contract they've read. And that's one of the most dangerous things, I think, in the world, is these 22-year-olds walking out and getting a contract that's 20 pages and they don't know what it says.
You bet.
So how do you read a contract?
Absolutely. Well, congratulations to you.
Thank you so much.
Continued success. Hey, we do this thing here called the Fast Five.
Great.
It's fast. It's 5 questions, rapid fire,
Great.
just as quickly as we can. And if you're ready, I'm going to do it.
I am.
Here we go in 3, 2, and 1. What musical would you like to produce that you have not been involved with already?
I have always wanted to create a stage musical of Troop Beverly Hills. That movie with Shelley Long. So it is in my heart's desire to create a stage production.
All right, I'll be watching for it.
Yeah.
Who's your favorite SpongeBob character?
I'm a Squidward fan at the end of the day. I think he's misunderstood, and I think he enjoys life.
Who's your favorite Broadway actress?
Probably Audra McDonald.
Do you make resolutions? Yes or no? And do you have one?
I give myself thoughts more than resolutions. I think resolutions can be dangerous on a personal level. But I did want to sort of refocus things this year and sort of think more, how do I meaningfully improve myself this year? Is there a skill I want to learn? Is there something I want to move forward?
I love that. I really do. And finally, if you could turn one TV show into a musical, which one would it be?
One television show?
Yeah.
Gosh.
That's a hard one.
That's a really hard, and I don't watch too much television, but I got to go with the current topic, Heated Rivalry, the musical. Let's do it, right?
What's next for you?
Next for me is just like keep plugging along. I'm going to keep teaching. I'm working on a couple independent projects. One thing I've been trying to focus on over the last year is returning to my own artistic roots. I think often as behind the table or behind the scenes people, we often get removed from the creative world, or we're not seen as creatives.
Absolutely.
But we're theater people. We do that. So I'm working on a historical fiction book right now that has some adjacency to theater.
I love it. Eric Cornell, thank you. It's been a delight.
It's been wonderful.
You. Thank you very much. You've really brought the show to life, so I appreciate that.
You.
Thank you very much. And thanks to all of you for listening and watching. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure you subscribe and be sure you follow us on social. We'll see you again next week. Thanks, everybody, for listening to Kerrigan and Company. To find out who will keep me company and be my co-host on the next episode, be sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook, X, and TikTok. Kerrigan and Company is recorded at the Big Night Studios at the TD Garden in Boston. You can view the podcast on YouTube and listen to it wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure you tell a friend. The executive producer of Kerrigan and Company is David Thompson, and our social media managers are Grace Kerrigan, Colby Thompson, and Riley Thompson. See you next time.